listening to the Pohu Experience.
Yo, I am back. I am back at home for less than 48 hours as of this recording. Last week, I was in Korea. I was in Seoul. And there wasn't an episode last week because I just didn't really want to bring all this podcast equipment with me. Although it's not much, it's been a long time since we had a holiday, since like 2020. So I thought, all right, this is going to be full on holiday mode. And even this whole trip was really quite last minute. Like we only made all the bookings like 3 weeks ago. Kiddos are having their spring break now and we knew we wanted to go somewhere, but we're not sure where because of a lot of travel restrictions. We didn't really want travel to become a chore. We wanted it to feel kind of like, 2019 travel, which for Korea until like March 11th, they needed a PCR test just to get into their country. And for us, that's kind of a deal breaker because it's a lot of hassle. You have to pay a lot for each PCR test and then you have to do it like 48 or 72 hours before. It's just so much logistics. We're like, okay, countries that need that, we're not going to go there first. We'll wait until they drop it. And we were looking at other places. I think on top of our list was actually Thailand and Vietnam, and the plan B was Hong Kong. And Hong Kong's plan B, just because it's so close, it almost feels like home, like we can go there anytime. If I'm not wrong, from Taipei to Hong Kong is something like 45 minutes or an hour plane ride, which is super close because from Taipei to Kaohsiung, which is basically North Taiwan to South Taiwan, with a bullet train, it's still at least like 2 hours. But yeah, the whole Seoul plan came into play because I was just looking around hotels and flights and realized that if we went a little bit earlier, meaning we had to skip a day of school for the kiddos, that all our travel and accommodation expenses was like 50% off. And I have no idea why. Perhaps it's spring break for everybody. So like starting from April 1st, prices went up by 50%. And if we went before that, it was roughly 50% cheaper. And that was just like a no-brainer. It's like this almost like inviting us to come to Seoul. So we decided, all right, we're going to go to Seoul. And mommy had really wanted to go to Seoul for only one reason. She wanted to go food hunting. There's like a list of foods she wanted to hit. She's been to Seoul like one time when she was really young with her whole family. And she just kept saying all she could remember was all foods there tasted really good. No matter what she ate, it tasted really good. And these days she's been watching a lot of Korean mukbang videos and just admiring their local food. And she's like, I want to try those. And the things that she wanted to try was the more exotic ones, right? Like if you've been following my stories, it's like that wiggly squid or like a raw soy sauce marinated crab. Like she wanted to try those stuff. And for me, I've actually never been to Korea. And there's not really a special reason why. I just didn't really have a reason to. But anyway, we got it all planned out and off we went. And I gotta say, the first thing that surprised me was Taipei to Seoul is a 2-hour flight. That is crazy. I had no idea. I thought Korea was a bit further than Japan because from Taipei to Tokyo, it's roughly a 3-4 hour ride. So this felt really close. Going to Korea felt no stress at all. It was really quick. And it's not like I have like plane fears or flying phobia or any of that. I just don't really like long transport. It's just really boring to me. But yeah, travel felt very light and easy. And my first impressions of Seoul is really just, it's a really beautiful country. I feel a lot of parts of it reminds me of Taipei, but kind of a better version. And by better, I just mean Taipei is kind of run down. Like if you're in Taipei, there's a lot of old buildings, a lot of buildings that look like they're 50 years old and they're really like 80 years old. And it's not really well kept. It's not exactly dirty or ewy or that kind of thing, but Taipei is just, it's that kind of vibe. Going to Korea, it feels like everything is well kept, or perhaps it's the area that we were staying in. We were staying around the Royal Palace, but then we also explored some of their more local markets. Everywhere just seemed really pristine. Even their wet markets, like Gwangjang market that we visited, it felt like hygiene was one of their priorities. Going there, we took a super early flight. It was like a 7:30 flight. I know to some of you that's probably not so early, but for me, that's just, I don't like it at all because it means that I got to wake up at around like 4. I got to get the kids ready, got to, set their breakfast, got to make sure transport's on point, go to the airport, check in and everything. And all this during the wee hours of the morning where my brain is just not at its finest. Like I'm more of a night owl. Like past midnight, my brain is like on fire. But in the morning, it's lagging behind. It's got high ping. So early commitments just really isn't my jam. But then we didn't really have a choice. It's either we take like a 7:30 or a 4:30. But if you take a 4:30, you kind of waste the whole day. So we decided to go for the early flight. So we at least still have kind of a full day there as soon as we arrive. And the first stop that we went to was the first place that we could find that had Korean barbecue. Perhaps I haven't been to enough Korean barbecues in Taipei. I don't know if this is the standard thing that they do, but I didn't realize that they cook the barbecue for you, because most times that I went in Taipei, I got to cook it myself. The only times that they cook it for me is if I take it away or use Uber Eats to call their food. But in Korea, it seems like every single Korean barbecue place, there's a person standing there and cooking the fresh meat for you. So you don't have to worry about, how well the meat should be cooked. They kind of just cook it in the perfect way that they feel they should serve it to you. And that was just amazing. And this trip there, everybody in Korea was just so welcoming. It was just so nice. Even though there's definitely a language barrier, like I really know zero Korean. Like I know kind of a lot of Japanese only because I watch a lot of anime and a lot of manga. I don't really consume much Korean content at all. Like I don't watch K-drama. And, yes, I listen to like Blackpink. I don't exactly sing along and I have no idea what their lyrics mean. So, going into Korea this time, I was really prepared to do a lot of hand signs or bust out Google Translate. But in the end, it was just very normal human to human interaction. They kind of always knew what we needed and was always over accommodating. And it just felt really nice. And it was something that I did not expect, because this isn't something that you really get from other countries. Like even in Taipei, like a lot of people say Taipei is known for the people, the people are really nice. And it's true, people here are super, super nice, but I don't think they go that extra mile to accommodate you, which I felt really strongly this trip. It's just like in the beginning of the trip, you're kind of anxious, you're kind of happy, scared. Like, you're in a new place, it's exciting, you're exploring, but you don't really know what to expect. But by like day 2, it was really comfortable already. It felt a little bit more at home because I knew that you couldn't really get into trouble, right? Anytime there's trouble, there's always somebody there that would help, even if it's just a stranger on the street. Like I remember we were walking down Yeouido Hangang Park, which is like the sakura place, and mommy asked some random stranger to help us take a photo. And I remember when mommy asked that stranger, she just burst into glee, like this is the happiest thing she could be doing right now, like full of smiles and giggles. And I was like, this is the first time I've seen somebody so happy to help take a picture. Usually it's like, yeah, sure, I'll take a picture for you. But this one, it's like, oh my God, yes, all right. And it's like telling us to smile, telling us to pose differently for, better pictures. And the picture taking maybe took 20 seconds. It wasn't like a long photo session. Mommy handed her phone to the stranger. She took the pictures, we thanked her and she left. And when we looked at mommy's phone, there was like 50 pictures. Now, I know some people might complain, but we actually really like that because that means that you have 50 choices to choose from. You could delete all the bad ones, but at least there's going to be some angle that's good. Whereas, some people that only snap 1 or 2 shots, you kind of, it is what it is. If somebody was closing their eyes or, looking somewhere else, you're stuck with that picture forever. But anyway, that was a really, really good experience. One thing I noticed about Korean barbecue, and actually in all the places that we were eating, is that it felt like in Korea, there isn't a staple carb. Meaning in most Asian countries, food is going to come with some kind of carb, right? Whether it's bread, it's rice, it's noodles, there's some form of staple carb. And while we were in Korea, most times we ordered rice for the kiddos because they're not used to eating wraps with veggies and all that. So they still want their rice, but they'll eat everything else. It's just they need the rice. So we'd order that, and it seems like that's not a normal thing to do. At least that's what it felt like. I'm sure people do it, but it felt like an add-on every time we asked for rice. And for me and mommy, we actually didn't eat much rice because we were just enjoying how the locals eat, which is wrapping everything in the different types of leaves that they serve us. I forgot what the other one is called, but there's that kind of spade-shaped one, which has a particular taste to it. It was either that one or just normal lettuce. And I noticed that most places we went, that was like our carb. Like that was what we were supposed to eat the dish with. Of course, you could order side dishes of fish cakes, rice cakes, or even their infamous shin ramen noodles, which a lot of places served. It was actually quite fun to observe. And when you order shin ramen, which they call spicy seafood noodles, they don't call it shin ramen there. It comes in a bowl, but it's obvious they added a ton of stuff to it. Like, there's a lot of seaweed, there's extra fish cakes. Like it seems like a glorified shin noodles. It's not the ones that you make at home that is very sad and alone and you only add an egg on top or whatever. One thing that mommy and I decided in Korea was that we would not over order in any place that we ate. We don't want to under order, like don't want to do minimum, but we just wanted to do standard. So usually because we had the kiddos, it was actually a lot easier to share the food. We'd order maybe 2 adults worth of food to share amongst 2 adults and 2 kids. And that would leave us space to just try out as much food as possible without getting overly full. And so after the barbecue place, after landing, we went straight to Gwangjang market, which is supposed to be one of their kind of wet markets. Arriving there, it felt a little touristy because the ratio of foreigners and locals became kind of like 60-40. And all of the food sellers there were super welcoming and, talking in all kinds of languages, trying to guess where we're from. I did notice that a lot of people there could speak Chinese and not English. So luckily we could speak Chinese, so communication wasn't at a complete loss. Gwangjang market kind of reminds me of the food area in Sillian Night Market here in Taipei, except it's all Korean food. It's foods I've never really seen before. I really love how one of their staple snacks is gimbap, which is basically, sushi roll. But in the sushi rolls, it's usually just some kind of pickles or cucumbers flavors. There's nothing really extravagant about it, but I really love it because it's so simple and it's everywhere. It's everywhere in the Gwangjang market. Over there, we just tried some of their snacks and they were all good. It's as mommy said during her previous trip with her family, there's just no bad food in Korea. It's just like everything tasted good. We also tried their mandu, which is their local dumplings. And one thing I noticed about Korean dumplings that's very different than like Taiwan dumplings or Hong Kong or Japan dumplings is the filling in Korean dumplings are very loose. Like they don't stick together. They just completely fall apart like a taco. Whereas, you know, in Taiwan, Japan, Hong Kong, our dumplings, the meat inside is like a little ball, right? It sticks together. It's like a little meatball. Whereas the Korean ones scatter all over the place if you take a bite. So it's always easier to just stuff the whole thing in your mouth. And don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with that. Tastes really good still. It's just something I didn't expect. Like we had it at Gwangjang market and we had it in a couple of other places and it was all the same. And I was just like, oh, I thought this was like a special thing in Gwangjang market. I guess this is just all dumplings or most dumplings in Korea are kind of in this format. And it's just something I'm not used to at all when I see dumplings because, you know, growing up with dumplings, that just wasn't the way it went. The final meal of our day one there, we went into what felt like a Western cafe, but looking at the menu, it served all kinds of local foods like bulgogi, bibimbap, and kimchi soup. So we decided to try that. And I had the octopus bibimbap. And I gotta say, it's good. It's just really good. Oh, but another thing I noticed about eating Korea was a lot of the places to eat there are really, really dark. Like most places that we were eating in the whole 6 days we were there, it was actually really difficult to take pictures of our food because it's just so dark. Like a lot of times I have no idea what I'm putting in my mouth. And it's only like, you know, when you take a picture with their phone, they have that kind of night mode to brighten everything up. It's when I take a picture, then I kind of know what I'm eating. But then even at post editing the picture, I have to like really crank the exposure and brightness up to make any kind of sense of what the picture really is. And I think I had a misconception on all the side dish thing in Korea where, you know, most places you eat, they give you all kinds of little side dishes like kimchi, fish cake, spinach, a lot of little snacks that you're allowed to keep refilling for free. I remember, you know, when I was living in Jakarta, or even here in Taipei, that always felt like a luxury, right? Like when you have foods that you can refill forever, especially when I was living in Jakarta, going to any kind of Korean place, they really went all out with the side dishes. Like usually you order your main meal, they come up with like 8 side dishes. They're all refillable. And a lot of times I felt like, man, I might as well just order the cheapest thing on the menu and just eat the side dishes. Because also the side dishes were really, really good. And I thought that's just the Korean thing. I thought that's just part of the culture. But this time there, I realized, yes, the side dishes are always there, but they're not always so extravagant. Like in most places, they will serve 2 or 3. Like kimchi is always one of them and they'll have like 2 more. I don't remember ever feeling like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I'm just going to come here for the side dishes. Like the main dish always was the hero and the side dish was, you know, a great accompaniment, which I think is meant to be. But, you know, in Jakarta and Taipei, it felt like the side dishes were kind of part of the hero journey. And I think one thing I really felt about the side dishes there was because it was so abundant, because every place we went to just served that on default, there was never a feeling of, I want to eat as much of this as possible, as I usually did when I was eating at Korean places in like Taipei or Jakarta. Like, you know, when you have free stuff, you kind of like, I want as much of this free stuff as possible. But over in Korea, it felt like, oh, this is a standard. You know, I could have as much as I want. I don't need to stuff myself with it. I don't need to be a cheap ass and try to eat my worth. Like it's always going to be here. If I like it, eat it. If not, that's fine too. And that was kind of the feeling I had there. And it's a weird feeling. It's almost like weird human psychology, right? When you have abundance and you know you could have it anytime you want, you end up not really wanting it. You end up just treating it as a normal thing. Whereas if something is rare and only in this moment in time, you could have as much as you want with no extra cost, then you're like, okay, I'm going to eat as much as I want, even though this, you know, maybe I don't love it that much, but it's free. So I'm going to eat as much as possible. And I was thinking about that for a bit, you know, these couple of days now that we're back. And I thought that's probably true, right? If all our meals were buffet style, like you just pay the price and you just go grab as much as you want, if that was the standard in where we were living and every place that you walked into, you just pay a fixed price and you could eat as much as you want, I think over time you wouldn't eat that much. Like you wouldn't try to stuff yourself. Like on days you're hungry, of course, you know, eat a little bit more, but most of us now that if we go to a buffet, it's not exactly an everyday occurrence and we plan our buffets. I mean, I still do. It's like if I'm going to a buffet, I'm probably not eating the whole day and just crank it up in a buffet and eat as much as possible to get that worth back. Day 2, the first place we went to is Yeouido Hangang Park. And I think we were really lucky because we were at the end of the sakura season. If you check out the mini travel vlog that I made, you'll see so much sakura there. And I gotta say, I don't know what it is. Maybe my photography or videography skills are just shit, but there's no way to catch that beauty on camera. Like it's so different on camera than when you're there seeing it live. I tried a lot of different angles, a lot of different methods to film it. It just couldn't capture the moment. And so in the travel vlog is the best that I could do. But it was truly beautiful. beautiful because we don't have much sakura here in Taipei. I think the weather just doesn't go low enough. By, I think, day 5, around day 4 or day 5, we started to walk by sakuras that were completely bald. They've completely shed and the floor is full of their petals. You know, the kiddos were having so much fun with it. They could literally just grab a handful of petals and throw it up, almost like playing with snow or something. So I think we completely lucked out, and I think I just have to say a big thank you to whoever was in charge of pricing for flights and accommodation, because the only reason we traveled on those dates is because it was a lot cheaper. Or not, our actual plan was to go around April 1st to like April 5th, but if we went then, we would have completely missed the sakura season. And so Yeouido Hangang Park was nice, but it wasn't what I expected. Like the sakura was around this stretch of sidewalk that you walk down, and it's a really long stretch. It's really, really beautiful, but the park itself actually didn't have much sakura at all. It just felt like a normal park. I mean, it's really beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I thought there was going to be a lot of sakura all over the place and you're just, you know, drowned in sakura. Was not the case at all. And over there was the first place that we got the tanghulu, which is the fruits, you know, the strawberry coated in sugar. And we tried another place a couple of days later, but realized that the one at Yeouido Hangang Park was the better one because the sugar coating was a lot thinner. And so it was a lot easier to eat with the fruit. It felt like a whole dish together. Whereas in the other place that we got it from, the sugar was really, really thick. So it took a lot of time to eat. You had to eat each strawberry like a candy, let it dissolve until you could finally bite in and, you know, do that with each one on your stick. I think the kiddos and mommy all agreed. They all liked the first one better, which is the one at Yeouido Hangang Park. From there, it was really close to the fish market, and mommy said, you know, fish market is somewhere you have to go. I had no idea. Mommy planned most of this out because you remember, she had a list, right? She had a list of foods that she wanted to hit. I was just there as a supporting role. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is I didn't realize that Google Maps does not work in Korea. And I don't know how true this is, but I heard it from a friend. She said it's because of the tensions between North and South Korea. So, you know, they don't allow Google Maps to completely explore their city. They have their own app, which is called Kakao Maps. We tried Kakao Maps. It's just not really user-friendly at all. And us being super used to Google Maps, we completely rely on that in Taipei. It was just a little bit too much to completely learn a new app. But then there was one workaround that I found, which was Google Maps would never tell you the direction of point A to point B in Korea if you asked for like a car route or a bike route or a walking route. It would say not available. But if you used a public transport route using the bus or using their MRT, it would work. Although we weren't always taking public transport, we took taxis a couple of times as well, but it gave us a view of, you know, how far things are and kind of gave us an estimate of how long it would take to get to certain places. And by using the public transport option, it kind of maps out how to walk there instead of using the walk option. Like, it's kind of troublesome, but if you try to do some critical thinking, you'll figure out how to get to where you want to go using Google Maps. But I think, you know, if you're a local there, you probably would take the time to learn Kakao Maps or whatever other maps that they use there locally. But yeah, so the next place we went to was the Noryangjin fish market because it was quite close to Yeouido Hangang Park. We went there at a really odd time. It was like 1-2 p.m. I thought it was just going to be empty because, you know, fish market usually starts really early. But no, it was so big. I just felt intimidated and lost. And apparently how it works is the first floor is all fresh seafoods. And what you can do is you buy the raw ingredients. And on the second story, there's a bunch of restaurants. You give the ingredients to the restaurants and they cook it for you and just charge you a cooking fee. And I got to say, the first thing that I was most afraid of, because it's happened to me a couple of times in other countries, was getting scammed. Because these are the type of places where when you get noobs like us and we're tourists and we know nothing about seafood, it's very easy to overcharge and just, I don't know better. I wouldn't even know where to file a complaint. I'll just kind of have to pay whatever they ask me to pay for. But this time there, we spent a lot less than what I expected. We had king crab, we had scallops, we had sashimi, we had all kinds of stuff, and it was for like 4 people worth. All of it was less than 100 USD, which really surprised me because we had a king crab. I thought the king crab alone would be 100 USD because it's a fresh king crab still moving about, and there was fresh scallops that were huge. There was sashimi. I was like, it's not hard to imagine, especially with seafood, that this is a little bit more expensive. It wasn't at all. Like, including the cooking fee, we spent less than 100 USD, like probably 90 something. And I was just like, this is crazy. We're definitely coming back here again the next time we come to Korea for seafood, because I don't even know if I can get that kind of pricing. Like, like Taipei, even with the most, local places. Like seafood isn't cheap, but apparently over there, it's like, I guess it's one of their staple ingredients because they're surrounded by the ocean. But man, that was super surprising. And of course, they all tasted really, really great, super fresh. One thing I'm really surprised with and really, really happy about this trip is that none of us got food poisoning. None of us got sick, which is crazy because we ate so much raw stuff. We had the wiggly squid a couple of times. We had beef tartare, which is completely raw beef. We had sashimi of all kinds of different fish, and nobody got sick. Like we're back for less than 48 hours and still nobody's sick. Everybody is fine. And I was expecting some kind of like discomfort there, right? Going to a new place, eating new foods, and also a lot of their foods are kind of spicy. It's not really out of the world that one of us comes down with some kind of stomach ache. No, none at all. And man, double thumbs up to Korea for that. That is so amazing. That is so crazy. Like even here in Taipei, there's some places that I would not eat raw meat. I try to avoid raw meat from our night markets. Sure, they're clean, but I don't really want to take the risk because even in some restaurants, if it's not super fresh, I've gotten food poisoning before in the most random places that I would have never thought to get food poisoning from. And so I've been very careful about that. And this time there, it was kind of like, all right, we're in Korea. It's time to YOLO. First time here, get sick. We'll deal with it later, but didn't get sick at all. So that was absolutely amazing. Oh, and those that were asking about the squid that moves around, it's nowhere as scary as it seems. It really tastes like normal squid. And in your mouth, you don't taste it moving around. Like as soon as you're chewing it and all that, it tastes like normal squid. It's a little bit slimy. The slimy is kind of like the sliminess of okra. If you've had, okra, the plant, the veggie before, kind of slimy like that. But other than that, it's really just squid. The experience of looking at it and putting it in your mouth is way more fun and interesting than actually chewing and swallowing it. Like chewing and swallowing it is nothing at all. And the sauce they usually give to go with it is sesame oil plus salt. So it actually tastes quite good. And we had it 2 times, and both times having it, we didn't have anything else to go with it. Like there's no rice, there's no wrap, there's nothing. You just kind of put it in your mouth and you eat it. It was great. And here's how non-scary it is. The kiddos loved it. The kiddos actually thought it was fun. Now, they like squid naturally. Like squid is one of their favorite seafoods. And when we explained to them, like, this is actually just squid, it's just still kind of wiggling around, they found it cute. And they were eating just the same amount of portions as we were. I know I made a poll on my IG when I was posting a picture of it on like, would you try this? And like 90% said no. And so for all of you out there that said no, I'd highly encourage you to try it. I mean, come on, you only live once. Like all the things you read about the scary stuff about you could choke and die from it, I don't really think so. I mean, just eat it like normal squid. Chew it normally. Don't just swallow it without chewing. It's pretty tame. It's pretty normal. It's really not bad at all. Like I totally would get it again. I love squid as well. But then on like a delicious standpoint, I probably still prefer cooked squid. Cooked squid is just a lot more delicious in my eyes, but definitely an experience to go try at least once for yourself. After the fish market, we went to the infamous Gangnam, Gangnam Oppa style, the place that I've been hearing about for the past 10 years because of the song. We finally had the opportunity to go explore it. And Gangnam is just a lot of big buildings and a lot of shopping, and it's really my thing. Like I'm the kind of guy that likes the city. I'm an urban jungle lover. I'm not so much a natural jungle lover. I'm not so much into nature. I don't know how to appreciate it, but I really love the city. I really love watching people, just watch how people live their everyday lives. For me, that's a lot more fun than, watching birds and pigeons. And Gangnam was exactly that. There were so many people there. There's so many people, so many shops, so many restaurants. Aside from the food, mommy also had another goal, which was buying a lot of makeup stuff. She's been really into makeup lately. And apparently in Korea, they have a famous chain that sells all these products, which is called Olive Young. And their Gangnam branch is one of the biggest stores. It has like 3 stories. So she spent a lot of her time there. And then while she's there with big kiddo, because big kiddo is getting older and starting to have more interest in that kind of thing, little kiddo is just like this boring. Like I want to go somewhere else. So I explored around Gangnam with the little kiddo. And so we just walked around, on the main streets. It's just like normal main streets like in any city. But I think what's really fun is when you go into the alleys, then you start to find all these cafes, all these bakeries, all these kind of little shops that you really wouldn't see unless you're just kind of exploring aimlessly, or that you knew that this was a shop that you wanted to go to and it was a target for you. And the overall experience is just really nice. I mean, over in Korea, I think every day, all of us, including the kiddos, were averaging at least 12 to 15K steps. It's just a lot of walking. And surprisingly, the kiddos never complained. Never complained once. Oh, no. I take that back. They did complain once once, but very understandably. It was when we went on the cable car to the top of the Seoul Tower. It's like on top of a mountain. We rode the cable car up, but walked all the way down. After we walked down, they started to complain, you know, their calves are kind of sore, and I was sore too. Mommy was sore too, so that was completely understandable. But that was the only time they complained about, you know, walking in Korea. Gangnam is where we had dinner for day 2, and we found a place that had grilled intestines. And apparently that was on one of Mommy's hit list. She wanted to try grilled intestines. I had no idea what it is. Like, we have intestines here in Taipei, but grilled? Okay. You know, if it's food, I'm willing to eat it. We found a place. It was really good. And like I was saying earlier, you know, eating Korea, for some reason, it's so dark. Like, this was a place literally so dark that it wouldn't register on my phone. So there's no pictures. There's no pictures at all. I did have a scene in a travel vlog to show the outside of the place, but the actual food itself, I couldn't take any pictures of. But it was good. It was a little bit on the more oily and fatty side than I would prefer, but it was really delicious. Goes really well if you wrap it up in a lettuce. And that was also one of the days that we tried the spicy seafood noodle, Shin Ramen. That was really good as well. So that wrapped up our day 2 in a nice, neat bow. Oh, I forgot to mention what we had for our first meal on day 2, and that is a pasta place. It's a pasta place called Pomodoro. And we went to eat there only because it was around where we were. Google Maps had it at a really high rating, and one of Big Kiddo's favorite foods is pasta. Like, she just really loves pasta. My mentality going to Korea was like, you know, why would you go to Korea to eat pasta, right? But then Mommy's a lot more open-minded than me. She's like, well, if it's good rating and it's here, they have space, you know, why don't we go and try it? So we went in to try it. It was around like 11:15, 11:20. We didn't have breakfast, so this kind of like brunch. The moment we sat down, a line formed outside. We were like, dude, this is what? This place is like this? All right. We're feeling like pretty good, pretty lucky. And the menu isn't big at all. Like, it has cream sauce, it has pesto sauce, it has risotto, it has tomato sauce. And it seemed like what they were good at was seafood. Like, all of them was mostly seafood or shrimp. I think that day we ordered the risotto in tomato base with seafood. We ordered the spaghetti in tomato base and seafood. And we ordered a pesto with fettuccine with seafood as well. And I was going to order a 4th one because pretty sure all of us could finish it. But then the owner there was like, no, you know, with kids, 3 is enough. We're like, okay. And actually, it was just right. And we could definitely have finished a 4th, but not going to complain there. And so the food came and we tried it. I'm lost for words. Like, just now I said, we're definitely going back to the Noryangjin fish market if we go back to Korea again. Pomodoro is another place we're definitely going back again. There's just something about the pasta there. It's just perfect. It's cooked perfectly. The tomato sauce is so fresh. The pesto sauce is so fresh. The seafood feels like you're at the fish market. It's so fresh. And the combination of everything together is just like, oh my God, I want more. Oh my God, this is so refreshing. This is, how have I not had this kind of pasta in my life? And the amount of cheese they put in it is just right. Not too much, not too little. And I know the way that I'm describing it is like some kind of dork that's never had pasta before. But trust me, because Big Kiddo is a lover of pasta, we have pasta everywhere we go. Like, every time if we go to a restaurant and they serve some kind of pasta, that's her order. And I'll always nibble a bite or two off of her. So I've tried a lot of pasta. And this one is just, it's really, really good. And afterwards, you know, when I went to look around, apparently it's quite a popular store. Like, a lot of people know about it. A lot of people are very willing to queue outside, because I was looking at the queue. I was like, dude, this is spaghetti. Like, it takes a good 10-15 minutes just to cook it, and it'll take us a good 15 to 30 minutes to finish it up and be done and get. It's like anybody that's sitting in there is easily in there for 45 minutes to an hour. This ain't fast food. This ain't McDonald's. But the line outside just kept growing and growing, and by the time we were finished, the line was still there. Same size, didn't change at all. Different people though, because, you know, people came in and out. It was just definitely, out of all the good meals that we had in Korea, it was one of the best meals. And that's so weird to say because it was pasta. It was so good that the kiddos asked if we could have it the next day for lunch, and we were like, yeah, 100%. But we got to plan it out now. We were here at 11:15 and we got like the last seat. If we're coming tomorrow, we don't even know what time it opens. So I think we got to be here by like 11. And that's exactly what we did. We went for a second time the next day. This time we ordered 4, and this time I tried the cream sauce as well. All so good. Would have went there a 3rd time, but felt like, you know, maybe we should try all the other foods first before we keep coming back to one place. And so that's how we started our day 3. Day 3 was Pomodoro again for a brunch. And our plan for that day was to go to the Royal Palace. Now, we didn't have a tour guide or anything, so I don't know anything about the backstory of the Royal Palace. I just know it's really pristine. It's a huge monument. When you go into it, it doesn't seem that big, but then you keep going through like doors and all that, and you realize, oh my God, this is like one massive park that I guess mirrors their olden days. It was a really cool experience. And of course, for the kiddos, for mommy, and for me as well, of course, I dressed dressed up as well. Apparently the thing to do there is you dress up in Korean traditional costume and you get to go into the palace for free. Of course, for a lot of people, that's where it's, Instagram friendly or vlog friendly. And overall, it was just a really fun experience. I think we spent a good 2 to 3 hours there and there was no food, right? There's no food there at all. It's really just walking, strolling, looking around, looking at all the people dressed up. There was also a lot of sakuras there that you could enjoy, but not as much as the Yeouido Park, but still a lot, still beautiful. On our day 3 there, the sakuras haven't dropped yet, so it was still full blast. After we were done with the palace is when we decided to go hunt for one of mommy's hit list, which is soy sauce marinated raw crabs. This was something she has been watching on YouTube a lot, and it's just something she's been really wanting to try. And we tried some here in Taiwan and some of the Korean places. It felt like it wasn't doing it justice. Like, we were just okay with it, but something felt off about it, even though we never had the original, right? We just thought, how come this is so raved in Korea, but over here it tastes like this? Or is this just an acquired taste? So mommy really wanted to kind of solve that mystery. So that's where we went next. The place that she found apparently had high ratings on Google Maps as well, was a place in Myeongdong. And apparently Myeongdong is kind of like a street shopping, street food, youngsters hangout place. It really reminded me of Ximending here in Taiwan. The crab place we went to was just on the outskirts of Myeongdong, walking distance to the street food and the shopping area. And I gotta say, trying the raw crab, it tasted really good. It's nothing like the one we had in Taipei. It was not even close. We ordered both the soy sauce one and the chili sauce one. Both were quite delicious. If I were to describe it, it feels more like paste. The crab meat has become kind of a paste, which is really full of flavor. So it goes really well wrapped in lettuce or with white rice. Now we completely understand what the hype is, and the hype is real. And I don't think we'll be able to ever taste it outside of Korea. It seems like there's a secret formula there somehow that you have to go there to taste. But it's also one of those things where I liked it. I found it delicious, but I might not ever go again unless I'm craving it. It's just one of those things, right? You know, there's some foods out there that are good, that you like, but it's not that high on the priority list. And that's where I'll put these raw crabs. It's more like for people that have never tried it, definitely go and try it once. Then after that, you decide, right? I guess it's kind of like smelly tofu in Taipei. I really love smelly tofu. It's really good, but it's rare that I go out of my way to get smelly tofu because there's other foods that I want to eat that smelly tofu isn't high enough on my priority list. And I got one mouth, one stomach. There's no way I could eat all this food. So after the crab, obviously we went shopping in Myeongdong. If you tracked out my travel vlog, you'll see I got to get a clip with a lot of the food vendors. And gonna be super honest with you guys, I didn't try a lot of them. I mean, we tried some, but a lot of them we skipped. I think it's because we have night market culture here in Taipei. I've been to enough night markets to kind of know how most things are gonna taste like that I don't really have a curiosity for it anymore. And that was the experience there. Like, there's a lot of cool foods, but kind of knew what that would be like already. The things that I was more curious about was like the fish cakes. The fish cake is something that you just don't find anywhere else. The way they make it is also like, I've never seen it anywhere other than on YouTube. And it was really good. Like the fish cakes, I tried the octopus flavor, the one with a crab stick, and the one with a sausage. And obviously the sausage one was the most tasty one, but the other two were great as well. And of course, over there, I had to get the corn dog. Because remember, I've been on a quest for corn dog. Like, this is personal now. This is not like Korea's known for corn dogs. Well, actually they are, right? They're known for their cheesy corn dogs, which I had as well. Not the biggest fan because I'm not the biggest fan of cheese. And what I'm looking for in a corn dog isn't the cheese. Like, I'm looking for a good cornbread with a good sausage that's just, crispy on the outside, very dense on the inside. I just have this memory of corn dogs I had when I was a kid. I'm trying to find a replica of it. Can't find it. And this time there also didn't really hit the spot. The corn dogs in the night market, apparently they fry it first and they keep it like on their counter, right? And when you order it, they go and microwave it. And so by the time I was eating it, there's no crunch. The corn bread felt like bread, like a loaf of white bread. It didn't really taste like a corn dog. It tastes more like cornbread. I'm not going to say it tasted disgusting or anything. It tasted good, just not the type of corn dog I was looking for. And one thing I noticed about street food over there, at least in Myeongdong, was that there wasn't a lot of variety. A lot of the vendors were serving the exact same type of food. They're just scattered around in different places, which I also think is a bias because I'm coming from a country that has heavy night market background where there could be 50 to 100 different foods in a small night market. So I feel I've been just spoiled for choice, but what was available in Myeongdong was actually a lot and actually all looked really good as well. So we ended day 3 in Myeongdong. Day 4, we've been eyeing this ginseng chicken soup place that we've been walking past in the past couple of days. And we thought, being in Korea, of course we have to try their local chicken ginseng soup. And so we went in, and inside was a very like local vibe, very traditional vibe. Small place, maybe only 8 tables with each table sitting for 2. The moment we walked in, the first thing I noticed was plastered everywhere was Michelin 1-star. So I was like, whoa, we struck gold. Like, because they didn't plaster this at all on the outside. We had no idea. Outside, all it said was ginseng chicken soup. And we hadn't really seen a specialized place for ginseng chicken soup anywhere else. So we thought, okay, this is the one we're going to go to. And so apparently we were in for a treat. Like, this is certified. People think it's delicious. I have to say, when the whole like Michelin star thing started to become a big thing, especially in Taiwan, where they started to give it out to a lot of street vendors and all that, over time I realized that it's not a guarantee for like the best thing. Like, it's guaranteed to be good, but I think it's become a little bit too, I don't know, like Michelin star to me personally doesn't always mean the best. But I gotta say, the ginseng chicken soup 100% deserved the Michelin star. 100% was super pristine. The menu was so simple. Chicken ginseng soup, you want white chicken or black chicken, you want to add abalone or not, that's it. That's their whole menu. And so we decided, let's try a little bit of both. We ordered the white chicken without the abalone, and we ordered the black chicken with the abalone. And as the dishes came, it's still boiling and bubbling in the ceramic bowl. I asked for rice for the kiddos, which the owner there took a spoon and started digging into my chicken. I was like, whoa, I asked for rice, man. What are you doing? But apparently he split open the rice, showing that there's glutinous rice inside of the chicken. And that was surprising to me, because all the time we had ginseng soup outside of Korea, nobody put glutinous rice in the chicken. And also it felt like it was a half chicken, so there was a lot. It was a big portion, but I still asked them for the rice because the kiddos need their rice. They might not be too into the glutinous rice. The white chicken was a lot softer and a lot more tender. The black chicken was a lot more chewy, had a lot more texture. Both tasted really good, very flavorful. You could really taste all the different layers of flavor they had in the soup. In the end, mommy was tilting the bowl, scraping the soup in both our bowls. And I think the owner saw us do that and was like, you want more soup? It's like, you can have more soup. I was there like, what? He's like, oh, yeah, free, like free refill. So we had a full free refill of the soup. And that's the thing I find so comforting in Korea. It feels like in Korea, you can't go hungry, because in most places that you go, you could order one thing and there's no way you're not going to be full from it. And that's not the case like in Taipei, right? In Taipei, you order one dish, you're not full, you got to order a second dish. And I think that's true for most places. It's not like just Taipei. In Korea, it feels like all the side dishes are free and refillable. You know, it's like soup in this ginseng chicken soup place is refillable. And I'm not even sure if you ask for rice that you have to pay for it. I think in some places we didn't pay for it, in some places we did. And I wonder, maybe they just ask you to pay for one bowl of rice, and if you want refills, you could have unlimited refills. It just feels like every meal is going to be satisfying. And that's something I appreciate so much this whole trip there. After the ginseng chicken is when we went to the Seoul Tower. Seoul Tower, according to mommy, is a must-go tourist spot. Like, everybody raves about it. The way to do it is to take a cable car all the way to the top to the Seoul Tower and then walk your way down, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the sakura and all that. It was a Saturday that we were there. Even just queuing to get to the cable car was roughly 45 minutes to an hour. And surprisingly, it was mostly locals that was around us. There was almost no foreigners at all. We were the only ones. And even more surprising to me was the cable car is a shared car. It's a really big cable car, probably fits like 50 people. Everybody just squeezes in one car to go all the way to the top. Because that wasn't what I was expecting at all. I was expecting kind of like cable cars here in Taipei. Every time there's a cable car, it's really a small cable car that probably sits only 4 people. You know, usually you get to sit with your friends and family, and it's a private little ride. Like, this one wasn't private at all. There was no place to sit. Everyone was just in there together. It felt like we were livestock being transported. But the scenery was beautiful. You got to see a lot of beautiful sakura. And I think we were lucky because we were still in the last of sakura season. Arriving at the Seoul Tower, the first thing we saw was the Love Lock Bridge, where everybody put a lock on the bridge signifying love and all that. And we decided to get one for, you know, the whole family. And so we got one, decorated it back and front, picked a random spot and put it there. There was a lot of locks. Like, there's a huge area for it, to the point where I took a picture of where we put ours and we went to explore somewhere else and came back. We were actually having some trouble finding it. It was that packed, even with a photo reference to try to find it again. On top of the Seoul Tower, we got to see a performance of like traditional Korean martial arts, where they use traditional weapons and slice up bamboo, slice up hay with samurai swords and all that. That was a pretty cool treat. And from there, we walked all the way down. It was probably like a 40-45 minute trek down with a lot of stairs. And so I could understand why the kiddos were complaining. After that, for the next 2 days, mommy was complaining her calves don't feel right, and was just like, just had to keep taking breaks to stretch it out. Seoul Tower is close to Myeongdong station, so we ended up in Myeongdong again that day, but this time we went for Korean barbecue. And as Korean barbecue goes, there's really nothing to say. It's just great. It's kind of weird that no matter where we go, like if it's a small shop on the side of the road, slightly bigger restaurant with a bigger establishment, like the meat is always fresh, it's always good. And service there, I think it's perhaps seeing that we have kiddos, kiddos, they're extra accommodating. Like they're always bust out the scissors to cut the meat up into smaller pieces for the kiddos. Anything the kiddos need, they're always on it. And this isn't just like one place. This is every place. It just felt really, really heartwarming. After the barbecue, again, it was more shopping in Myeongdong. It's as if you could finish shopping everything there in one night. And so we ended day 4 with Myeongdong again. Day 5, we were actually planning to go back to Pomodoro, but it was closed. It was a Sunday. We were there a little bit early, like 10:50, because we knew that place gets crowded. But when we went there, it was quiet. It was just completely quiet. There was a sign in front of the door. I had to bust out my Google Translate camera and look at it, and we are closed on Sundays and public holidays. I was like, oh, this is our last day, so we're not gonna have a last taste of Pomodoro. So we ended up exploring a little bit and ended up at this place that served, I don't know what it's called, and I'm really sorry that I don't remember all these Korean dish names. The Korean language is just quite foreign to me at this point. I'm trying to learn it now as I was making the travel vlog and as I'm doing this podcast, but it always skips my mind and I always have to end up searching for it on the web. But basically what we had was spicy octopus and seafood, and it was just, that's all it was. Like it was spicy octopus and seafood. It's all red in color and you're supposed to eat that with lettuce or with rice. It just looked really interesting, something that we passed by and we tried it out. Kiddos loved it. In that store, they also had like fried shrimp tempura and also mangdu, the dumplings. So we ordered each of those and just had a really fulfilling local Korean meal. From there, we went to Hongdae. Apparently, Hongdae is supposed to be like a mix between Myeongdong and Gangnam, a shopping place a lot of youngsters go to, but not as young as Myeongdong, but also not as high-rise as Gangnam, and that was exactly what we got when we went there. I think Hongdae reminds me more of Ximanding than Myeongdong does. In Hongdae, there's just a lot of shopping. There's a lot less street food. There's almost no street food, actually. I don't remember seeing much street food at all, and what I mean by street food is like those vendors on the streets. Like everything was from a stall or a store. That's where we got the 30 cm ice cream, which is really fun, but not exactly new because we also have that here in Taipei. But after shopping around for a whole day, that's where we had a last dinner in Seoul, and it was cheese and spicy chicken. I think it's called cheese dakgalbi. And again, I think we got lucky. We found a few places, we settled on one, and we were eating at around 5 p.m. So there was still space. By the time we came out, there was a long line again. So I think our eating schedule has been quite lucky this time in Korea. But anyway, going into this place, there's literally no menu. Like there's nothing else to order but the cheese dakgalbi. What you get to choose is the spicy level, the portion of chicken that you want. Minimum, you have to order 2. Now the dishes looked really, really big, so we didn't know how much to order. After you order it, you're not allowed to add order because it comes out in a huge pan. And so we went with 3 with some extra cheese and mild in spiciness. Now this was probably the first time in this trip that we had food that was actually spicy. All the other places, they had their kimchi, they had all their other stuff. It wasn't really that spicy at all. This one was actually spicy, even for me and mommy, at the mild stage. And so for the kiddos, it was kind of almost intolerable for them. They ended up drinking a lot of water and eating a lot of rice. The spiciness goes really well with the cheese because the cheese kind of makes it a little bit less spicy, more tolerable. In the store, there's like a buffet bar, which is all the leaves and lettuces, all you can eat. You just take as much as you want. And I saw most people were just eating with that. It was very rare that people were eating it with rice. I think we were the only table doing that. That's only because of the kiddos, because they're just really not used to the lettuce. But that was definitely a really fulfilling meal that wasn't on mommy's hit list, but we both knew about it from, you know, watching YouTube and all that, and just had never tried before. It's just not common, I guess, outside of Korea. And I gotta say, we ordered a portion of 3. The chicken portion was for 3 people, 100% not enough. Like we could have easily went for 6 and still finished all of it. And I think it's because it's spicy, so it's a lot easier to eat more of as well. But yeah, I think I would put this on the list of something that I would like to try again if we go back to visit again. And that was our final meal in Korea. Well, the next day, day 6, we had a 12 o'clock flight, which means by 9 o'clock we had to start heading for the airport. And so all we really had was breakfast, and we just had the hotel breakfast, which is also great, by the way. It's just a lot of local Korean dishes, very different than breakfast that we have in other countries. But yeah, that basically wraps up our Seoul trip this past week. I wanted to record this episode ASAP because like everything is still super fresh on my mind. Coming back, one of the surprising things was over there was no scale, so I never weighed myself. I had no idea how my weight was fluctuating when we were there. And basically when we were there, we were also just eating whatever we want. The only rule I gave myself was to stop eating when I'm full, but actually I was never really that full. And I guess that's because of all the walking that we were doing, and also that we just weren't getting big portions. Anything that we were eating, we were going for smaller or minimal portions. And so coming back, weighing myself yesterday morning, I found myself 0.5 kg lighter. I actually lost weight on this trip. And this is a trip where I did not count calories. I counted 0 calories. I ate basically whatever, whenever. Like in between some of the spots that we were going to, I'd head to 7-Eleven, try try some of their local chips. All kinds of foods were involved, and still coming back actually losing half a kilo. This isn't exactly new to me. It actually happens quite often whenever I go out to travel, because I end up eating less calories because I'm not trying to hit my proteins and all that, because I'm 100% sure I didn't hit my proteins any of those 6 days, like 100%. And so I kind of have new thoughts on how to eat during your holidays, right? And because we haven't been on a holiday since like 2020, since the whole Rona outbreak and all that. So I've kind of forgotten what holiday eating feels like. But now that I'm reminded, I've realized that it's actually really hard to overeat on a trip. Like if you just had a little bit of self-control, right? Don't just stuff everything you see into your mouth. I mean, you want to try something, go and try it, but you don't need to try 10 of them, right? You could try 1, 2, or 3. I think most times you overeat when you're traveling is because you're eating when you're full. And you know, I've been there, I've been guilty of that plenty of times in the past. So I remember it very clearly. And it's like I go on vacation and obviously I'm full, but then I walk by like some shop that sells ice cream and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta have some ice cream. But I'm like stuffed. I'm like actually super stuffed already, but I still want that ice cream. And in my mind, it's because, well, I'm on holiday. I want to just, you know, eat as much as possible. That as much as possible is what tips you over when you're on vacation. Again, it's okay as long as when you come back, you get back on track. But also now I'm really starting to see that it's totally possible to not gain weight at all and maybe even lose weight when you're on holiday while enjoying everything if you're just more aware of the portions that you're eating. Like today is day 2 of coming back from Korea, and yesterday I was just back on track already. And I think eating so much outside food, I really crave my usual, you know, homemade stuff. So yesterday I just cooked myself all day, cooked veggies, cooked salmon, chicken breast, white rice, and I straight away hit my target calories. Remember, I'm on a slight deficit because I'm trying to cut the fat from my last bulk, and straight away this morning I lost another 0.5 kg. So far, coming back for less than 48 hours, I've lost like a kilogram, which tells me that there's a high chance I was on a deficit the whole trip, even though I'm eating whatever I want. Simply because number 1, portions weren't huge, and number 2, so much walking. I think on like day 4 or day 5, I clocked in like 16,000 steps. Like that's crazy. I'd never walked that many steps in Taipei in my life, I think. And like the average was like 12 to 15K. But yeah, I'm still kind of trying to digest all my thoughts, trying to reflect back on this whole trip. But I wanted to make this episode first to kind of recap the whole trip while it's fresh on my mind. Then I can dig into the deeper stuff in the future episodes. I also started a new way to meal prep yesterday. And I don't know if it's just inspiration from the recent trip in Korea. If this stays throughout the week, I'll share it on the next episode as well. But yeah, I think this is going to be it for this episode. I've been going for way too long. I hope you like my recap on our whole Korean trip. Any details on any of the places that we went that you want more of, feel free to DM or email me. I'd be more than happy to share all the places that we went to eat and see. Seoul, Korea is really a beautiful place. It's really a welcoming place, and it's so close, a 2-hour flight only for where we are here. It's some place that I can definitely see all of us going there again for more food adventures. And until then, this is just going to be a really happy memory, a great start to traveling again since 2020. And so this is it. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.